I brought my son to drop off a birthday card for my mom. My sister opened the door, looked at us, and said, "It's kind of a bad time, maybe next year." I just smiled and said, "Sure." Half an hour later, my voicemail was full. "Why did you freeze Mom's account?" It's amazing how a few words spoken in the middle of a quiet Sunday morning can humiliate you in front of your child in a way you will never forget. We were standing on the porch of my mother's house. My son was holding a huge homemade birthday card decorated with glitter and hearts, with a proud smile on his face. He had spent 2 hours making it the night before. I was holding a small gift bag in my hands. Nothing fancy, just a few little things that I knew my mom would like. Then my sister opened the door. She wasn't even surprised to see us. She just raised an eyebrow and crossed her arms. "Now's not a good time, maybe next year." My son looked at me. I felt that sharp, uncomfortable silence that seems even louder when a child is looking at you, waiting for a cue on how to react. He didn't understand. I think he thought she was joking. I didn't even flinch. I just smiled and said, "Sure." We got back to the car. He didn't say anything for a while. He just held the card on his lap, as if he had done something wrong. I told him that maybe his grandmother wasn't feeling well. Maybe she was just tired. He nodded, still looking at the card. That was it. That was supposed to be the end of it. But 30 minutes later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. One voicemail after another. The first, "Why did you block Mom's account? What kind of daughter does that?" The second, "Are you serious? On her birthday?" The third, "Do you think we can survive without that money? You're crossing the line." My mom, both my sisters, even my brother, who only ever texts, called me 5 times. I didn't block anything. I didn't even open the bank app. But when I checked, I saw that they had cancelled my access. I don't know if it was on purpose or by accident, but the account I had been depositing money into every month was now closed to me. They made a big show of accusing me without even finding out the facts. They didn't care what really happened at the door or how it affected my son. They only cared about one thing. And that's what still hurts a little. They didn't even realize how quickly everything would come to light. Because from the month I got that big raise, I quietly sent them money. $4,000 a month. 15 months in a row. I never refused. I paid for new appliances for my mom, my brother's rent arrears, my sister's vacation, my other sister's urgent dental treatment, which suspiciously coincided with the girls' trip to Las Vegas. And not once did I ask for anything in return. But now they've turned their backs on me. Without warning. And then they blamed me for it. It was the last peaceful moment they would have for a very long time. They just didn't know it yet. The calls didn't stop. On the contrary, they became more and more aggressive. I transferred them to voicemail. I didn't have the strength to listen to people who only contacted me when they needed something. By Monday morning, I had 27 missed calls and 16 messages. One from my mother stood out because it started differently. "We need to talk." That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just a demand, as if I was some kind of employee who had missed a shift. I didn't respond. I took my son to summer camp, went to work, and pretended everything was fine. I didn't even tell anyone about what had happened to the door. I was still ashamed. That evening, I finally opened the family chat. My sister had sent a message. "It's very selfish to leave Mom sitting here crying on her birthday. I hope you're proud of yourself." I scrolled up. No one had written to me in this chat for almost 3 weeks. The last time was when they were voting on where to have family brunch, at my expense, of course. I closed the chat. On Tuesday morning, my mom's neighbor Sharon called me out of the blue. "We're not close." She's one of those people who always smiles politely at me and is awkward at family gatherings. But she said, "I don't want to get involved, but your brother was here last night. He was shouting something about inheritance, and he mentioned your son. I just thought you should know." That's when I felt that something had changed. These weren't just a few angry voice messages or rude comments. They started talking about money as if it belonged to them. And now they were talking about my child. On Wednesday, my bank informed me that someone had tried to access my business account from a suspicious location. The login was unsuccessful, but it was the first time I had seen anything like this. I checked my mom's account again. It was still blocked. I was still getting notifications about unauthorized changes. That evening my son asked, "Can I call Grandma and tell her I miss her?" I said no. I told him she was busy. He didn't argue, but he kept looking at the shiny card on the kitchen table. It was still lying there, untouched. The next morning, there was a long scratch on the driver's side of my car. Not a normal scratch. This one was curved, deliberate. like someone had done it on purpose. At that moment, I knew I had to start planning. Not to fight them. Not even to teach them a lesson. But to show them what happens when you confuse generosity with weakness. I opened the spreadsheet. 15 months. Every dollar recorded. Every Venmo note. Every direct deposit. Every transfer I made. Total. $60,000. And starting today, not a penny more. But I hadn't said a word yet. Let them think they were still in control. Let them sweat. By Friday, my silence must have started to bother them. My sister tried to make me feel guilty by sending me a photo of our mom sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring out at the street. The caption read, "She hasn't eaten anything all day." I knew it was a lie. Sharon texted me that evening to say she had seen Mom carrying bags of food from the Thai restaurant down the street. Twice. But it wasn't about the truth anymore. It was about control. As always. On Saturday morning, a new message arrived. It was from my brother. Unfiltered. "You're ruining everything. Mom is behind on the bills. You need to fix this before it gets worse." I stared at the screen for a minute. They still thought I was just angry and had blocked their account. That I was being emotional. They had no idea that I hadn't done anything. They had blocked me themselves. And now they were suffocating from it. On Sunday, the pleas began. My other sister called and left a message, crying that she had paid for the trip to the cottage and couldn't pay the rest without me. I told the girls everything was fine. Please just send the money. I didn't respond. That night, they came to my house. My son was already asleep when I heard a knock. Not the kind of knock people make when they come to visit. An angry knock. I looked through the peephole. It was my brother. And my mother. I didn't open the door. I just stood there and let them knock until they stopped. The next morning, there was a greasy stain on my windshield. Under the windshield wiper was an envelope with one sentence written in black marker. "We know what you're doing." I didn't feel afraid. I felt sharp. Focused. They still had no idea how much their lives depended on my consistency. Utilities. I had been paying their gas and electricity bills for over a year. Cell phones. On my family plan. Car insurance. On my multi-driver policy. Everything they needed to live their lives was in my hands. And now I was going to take it away, piece by piece. First, the phones. I switched mine and my son's to a new carrier and cancelled the family plan. 3 days later, my sister posted a story from someone else's phone. It said, "People who cut off their own flesh deserve the same when their turn comes." I took a screenshot. Next was insurance. I called and explained the changes. I removed the additional drivers. My brother will find out when he tries to call an Uber next time. His insurance coverage is gone. Then utilities. I stopped automatic payments. I set up bills to notify me when they were past due, so I could watch it happen. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was calm. Surgical. But I wasn't done. Because they hadn't learned anything yet. They were still trying to find ways to get out of it. To turn other people against me. My aunt called to check in, after hearing unpleasant things. I told her, ask them who paid for my mom's new refrigerator. That was the last time she mentioned it. And yet, not once, did any of them ask what happened on that porch. None of them asked how my son was doing. How I was doing. They were so used to me playing the role they had assigned me. Generous. Quiet. A bank. But banks close when they get robbed. And I was just getting started. 2 weeks later, everything started to unravel faster than I expected. It started with a message about my brother's eviction. He sent me a photo with no context, just the caption, "Happy now." I didn't respond. But I saved the image. I wrote everything down. That same afternoon, my older sister sent me an email, a real email, saying that her internet had been cut off and her children couldn't access their summer school lessons. The subject line read, "Urgent. Do what you have to do." I marked it as unread and left it in my folder. That night, I received a message through the feedback form at work. It was anonymous but clumsy. Some nonsense about me being a fraud, questioning my qualifications. The grammar gave her away. I had seen this writing style before, many times. It was my mother. When I realized she was trying to ruin my job just because she wasn't getting paid anymore, I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. I changed my passwords. I set up 2-factor authentication on everything. I called my employer and told them a vague version of the truth. They supported me. I wasn't worried. The following weekend, my mom's electricity was cut off. I found out because Sharon sent me another message, this time with a photo of a long orange extension cord stretching from her garage to my mom's back porch. My mom was literally borrowing electricity. I didn't even know you could do that. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I started to feel guilty. The part of me that still remembered the birthdays, the hugs, and the smell of cinnamon in her kitchen on Christmas mornings. But then I remembered standing on that porch, holding my son's hand, while she let my sister close the door in our faces. They decided I wasn't part of the family as soon as they saw my wallet. 3 days later, my mother called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Calm. Almost theatrical. I just want to talk. I don't know what's going on. We're all so confused. You're not acting like yourself. This was their new approach. Pretend they were concerned. Act like I was having a nervous breakdown. Manipulate me into returning to normal life. But normal life meant $4,000 a month. Normal life meant being useful, not loved. Then came the turning point. My son came home from camp with a new question. Mom, why did Aunt Carla say you forgot where you came from? It turns out she showed up at the camp parking lot and tried to talk to him when I picked him up. I was 2 minutes late. She approached him and said that I had changed, that I was turning into someone I wasn't. He didn't really understand, but the director called me later and said that she had made them feel uncomfortable. He said she asked questions about our schedule, who picks him up, where we live. I didn't go home that night. I took my son to a hotel, filed a restraining order the next morning, and blocked all my credit cards just in case. They had crossed the line. And it wasn't just about the money anymore. They wanted to destroy me for refusing to give them what they thought they were entitled to. They thought they were powerful because there were more of them. But I had something they didn't. Everything they had ever taken from me, every dollar, every favor, every smile I gave when I wanted to scream, now gave me strength. They were desperate, careless, and slowly destroying themselves. And I didn't lift a finger to stop it. The no-contact order was the only real message they understood. Legal consequences. Boundaries they couldn't cross. At least not without risking losing what they couldn't defend. The camp director confirmed that my sister would no longer be allowed in the area where children were picked up. But I changed camps anyway. It wasn't worth the risk. My son didn't understand why, but he didn't complain. Only once on the way home did he ask me if he had done something wrong. The question stuck in my chest like a brick. The following week was strangely quiet. No calls. No messages. No snide comments on social media. Just silence. Until the fire. Thank God it wasn't the house. It was the garage. A neighbor saw it and called before the fire spread. Just a pile of charred cardboard boxes and plastic containers, mostly old stuff. But the firemen said it looked deliberate. There were no surveillance cameras. But I knew. And they knew I knew.